And I remember having a conversation with my dad, because we would have carne asadas at the house, and so like we're having a carne asada, and I'm telling my dad, I was like, because he's like, oh, Natalia, like, how's the job search, blah blah blah, and I'm like, yeah, I'm putting in all these applications, I'm doing XYZ, whatever, and also like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I want to be a yoga teacher, and I want to focus on doing that, because I had been in a really gnarly car accident that like had messed up my knee, and I dove deeper into yoga after the Western medicine didn't really help me out, and I was able to heal my body. And so
do you remember how old were you? I'm kind of curious. I'm thinking about your chart. I want to see annual as it lines up.
I think I was 23. I was 23 when that happened. 20. Yeah. The car accident.
Yeah. Okay.
Hold
Well, that's. Did you have to go to the hospital? Obviously, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually the 12th house is the hospital, Virgo, 23 years old. So that's kind of fascinating. But when you said the knee, it makes sense because also what? You got Uranus, sudden events, and then Neptune's associated with the hospital, and then Saturn and Capricorn rules the knees. So that's why I was wondering. I was like, now I would have really lost it if it happened at 27 years old, because that's literally the 4th house. But it even just as good, the fact that you said not, obviously not good. I'm so sorry you went through that.
Right.
Astrology good, because like you, I'm an astrology nerd, and so it does connect with the 12th house, 23 years old. So that's really, wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
What's up, good people? It's Eric Taylor, Big E Astrology, back with another amazing Knowledge is Love Astrology podcast. And today on episode 258, I have an amazing returning guest. She's a veteran with us here on the podcast, and she is a Reiki master, an energy healer, and a confidence and self-worth coach for women, and has a powerful story and really powerful energy. I welcome back to the podcast, Miss Natalia Rose. How are you today, my friend?
Hey, thank you so much for having me back. It's always such a pleasure to connect with you. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, that's so great. I know, I tell people, man, number one, I still remember the first time I saw you on Instagram. Wasn't following you, and you just popped up in my feed, and you were doing Reiki. And I normally don't, just so you know, I don't normally tap into people like that, on IG or whatever. I just keep scrolling or whatever. But you were doing your thing, the vibe, the energy, the bilingual. It took me back to New York City, and I was just like, who is this young lady? And then I just started to receive what you were saying, and I felt the Reiki energy, and I was like, oh, wow, like she's the real deal. Like, you know what I mean? So, so hence this is our third show together, which is just so awesome. Now, share with the audience, when did you first learn about some of these spiritual terms of the metaphysical? Right, like the Reiki and meditation and all that stuff.
Yeah, it started, can you believe it, almost 10 years ago. Spirituality, I know. Spirituality had been around for like a really long time for me. My mom had books on astrology around the house. And so I had been introduced to that, but I didn't really like get super into it until about maybe 10 years ago. I experienced my first Reiki session, and I feel that was the catalyst that really just shifted a lot for me. And I didn't go directly into Reiki. I actually started with yoga, and so became a yoga teacher. And then through my own yoga practice and working with clients, I remember one of my clients being like, as I was guiding her into like a pose, like, are you doing Reiki right now? And I was like, no. She's like, I'm pretty sure that's what you're doing. So I was like, okay, like maybe this is something I need to study. And so studied that quite a bit, and it just kind of like unfolded from there. So I like to say that yoga was my gateway.
Hey, listen, that's such a great gateway because for me, I was so late on the yoga train just because couple things, right? Became a born again Christian, being a guy, just I was like, oh, whatever. The first time I did yoga was during the pandemic, Natalia, and not only was I blown away about it in terms of the stretching and spiritual stuff, but it's a real, guys were used to just lifting the weights. It was a great workout. Like, like
Yes.
working on your core and holding those poses. Oh my God. I mean, we were doing that during the pandemic and I was like, oh wow, I feel strong like bull. Like I feel good. So Natalia is the amazing Libra rising, the Aries sun in the 7th house with I think like Mercury and Venus, and that Aquarius moon in the 5th house. So tell me more about because I feel, right, I guess we want to segue into it, but growing up, you have Uranus and Neptune and Saturn and Capricorn in the 4th house, and your mom had these spiritual books. Did you have like spiritual experiences? Did you see like any shadows or elementals or ghosts or aliens growing up? What were your experiences?
Yeah, I definitely saw spirits, ghosts as a kid. And it kind of freaked me out, especially like though my mom had these spiritual books around, I grew up very Catholic. And so it was like, oh my goodness, like yeah, it was kind of scary, and I kind of closed that part off for a really long time. Yeah.
Now, did your mother also experience see those things?
Yeah. My mom was very she could definitely, I don't think she ever closed it off for her. And she would experience things like deja vu and things, or be like, I dreamt this, I saw this already. So I know that a lot of the gifts that I have definitely come from her.
And through that mother's lineage. What about abuela?
I would, you know what? Not that she ever talked about, but I wouldn't doubt it.
Oh, I'm sure. With Saturn there too, I bet it's through the whole mother's lineage. That's like so freaking awesome. So,
Yeah.
okay, now take us through, because, even since we've known each other for the few years now, I've seen just like all this amazing growth that you've experienced. And I want you to share with the audience, now we're kind of in this place where you are really, in a big way, helping women with your confidence and self-worth coaching program. Explain that and share with us what type of work you do with women and how and where.
Yeah, well, so I fully believe that when a woman is confident in herself, she understands her worth, she understands the power that she holds to be the creatrix of her life, that she not only like impacts her own well-being, but she impacts the well-being of everybody around her, right? Women are naturally nurturers. Even if they're not mothers, they will be caring for the community around them. And I feel that what I've often seen, and in my own life, right, like seeing my mother do this, seeing all the women in my family do this, where they would overgive and not give enough to themselves, and it would leave them depleted. It would leave them bitter and angry and resentful, and feeling like they didn't have permission to give to themselves, or feeling that it would be selfish for them to give to themselves.
Amen.
But what I've experienced is that when you pour into yourself, you're able to give from overflow. You don't feel that anger, that resentment, that bitterness. You feel complete. You feel like, okay, like I can do this because I'm resourced and I'm good, right? And so a lot of the work that I do with my clients is helping them to understand, one, what it is that their own body is communicating to them, having this awareness and understanding of what it is that they require, because every person is different, right? So understanding what it is that they need, and then figuring out the routines and the boundaries that they need as well to be able to nourish themselves. And then from there, being able to, like if dating is a priority, figuring out, okay, what it is that they want in a partner and how it is that they can show up in the way that they would be able to attract that partner to them. And then just working through integration, because repetition is the mother of learning, right? Like we have to continue to do the thing in order for us to see the results that is that we want. So that's how it is that we work through it in my 4-month program, Healed Baddie.
Okay, 4-month program. I love that. So, share with me, right, in terms of, I know you had shared with me an amazing article where you shared some personal experiences around emotional and maybe physical abuse and old prior relationships. Tell the audience, what maybe you want to share in terms of what you experienced, but then how do you take your own knowledge and then your journey of growth and healing and then apply it to the women you work with and your clients?
Yeah. So I actually grew up in a very abusive household. And so the things that I learned that were love or what love looks like was not an accurate depiction of what that actually is. And so when I left home at 18 with just a backpack, nothing else, yeah, it was really rough. It was really rough. I had to really rebuild everything from scratch. But I got myself into a relationship that really just mirrored the relationship that I had had with my family. So it was another abusive relationship, and I didn't know any better. So I didn't know that I was stuck in an abusive cycle until I went to college and I made friends who were a part of the feminist movement. And that really put me on to like, oh, okay, like this is actually not okay. Like this is not all right. And so it took me 4 years to get out of that relationship.
Wow.
And it was very difficult. Yeah, it really messed up my entire self-esteem. My self-worth. I didn't have any self-worth. I didn't have any confidence. I was very insecure. And it influenced a lot, not just the relationships that I had, but also like even my work. I wait years without even asking for a raise because I didn't feel worthy of being able to ask for what it was that I deserved, right? And so I went all of these years feeling insecure, doubting myself, feeling like I couldn't ask for what it was that I needed or what it was that I wanted. And through my own evolution, my own journey, finding yoga, Reiki, meditation, all of the things, finding life coaching, learning about EFT and NLP, like I've been able to get past all of that, completely change my mindset, completely change how it is that I approach my life in general, but like how it is that I'm able to interact with others from a more grounded place of like understanding that like I am worthy, I am lovable, I am deserving of the things that it is that I desire, and so is everyone else. Right?
Amen.
And so that's yes.
That's so beautiful. So do you think that you, in that process, was your throat chakra closed because of the lack of self-worth, so that you couldn't advocate for yourself and you couldn't speak about what you wanted and your own values and desires?
I feel like yes. And also it's ironic because at the same time, like I was also, a total, like I would like low-key, like an anarchist, definitely like at all different kinds of protests and like speaking up for others, but not able to speak up for myself. And
okay, so you placed it for like advocating for others, but not for Natalia.
Right. Because there was still that story of if I do that for myself, then I'm selfish. I have to do it for others. Right. Yeah. So I had to work through that too, because like, yes, like speak up for others and voice your opinions, your ideas and your beliefs against, oppression, and also advocate for yourself too.
Wow. That's so powerful. And that you can hear those themes and stories with so many people, right? Really not just in America, across the world, And I sometimes wonder, you know, how do we, maybe our soul selects or accepts going through these like subconscious like takeovers, and then we get that spark, for not everybody, but a lot of people get that spark to then kind of awaken out of it. And so how is the process of noticing, seeing that, and then doing the hard work in yourself to heal it?
You know, it's definitely not an easy process. It's not an easy process. It can be pretty difficult. I think for me, it really so like I said, the catalyst was that Reiki session. But simultaneously, I had just gone through a really bad breakup. So after that abusive relationship, found myself another relationship. So I hadn't healed the things that I needed to heal, but it was a better relationship. It just didn't end. It just didn't end well. It ended with being sexually violated. So I just had to rebuild again from like absolute, complete, like nothing. But it was I got the Reiki session shortly after, and it really illuminated a lot for me. I was like, I need to change everything. Like everything needs to change. None of this can go. Like there's no way that I want to live my life just, you know, like going through the motions. I could feel that there was something that wanted to come through. I was gonna say that there was something missing, but the thing is that like nothing is ever really missing. Everything that we need, everything that we're looking for is always inside of us, right? And so though it felt like it was missing, mostly because it was hidden from me. I had hidden it from my own self. And so diving into a spiritual practice, really getting deep into yoga and deciding to become a yoga teacher, getting deep into meditation, and beginning to have these different awakenings where I'm seeing past lives, where I'm connecting with different parts of my soul that had gotten, you know, kind of muddled up in all of the, like hidden behind the veil of the trauma, you know, like really just like uncovering all of that and bringing it all together. The process has been, it's been long. Also, like so in human design, when I'm a 3/5, and so like I'm just supposed to kind of like, I like to think of it as like being a
3/5 what? Generator or manifestor? Or?
Oh, projector.
Projector. So
yeah.
you have to wait for the invitation. Okay.
Right. But the 3 is like kind of like a mad scientist. Like I have to do it and figure it the fuck out. So it's taken.
Yes, I have the 3 too.
It takes a minute. It's like, oh, trial and error, right?
Wow.
So trying a whole bunch of different things and just figuring out what works for me. And I think also because I've tried so many different things, it has allowed me to distill everything that I've learned and be like, okay, like this is like an easier way for somebody else to be able to do it, you know?
Right. So two placements that I find interesting that can speak to a lot of the issues you've dealt with and the pains and traumas, but then on the yin yang side, they're probably very beneficial in the work that you're doing now to help others. And that's you having the true black moon Lilith in the first house in Libra, right? Mm-hmm. Which can deal with some of the intensity and some of the issues you dealt with in relationships. And it can also create, when you have it in the first house, we talked about this on the first episode you were on, but, you know, looking at it at a different angle now can also really indicate where, you know, you can be over-sexualized by men and women at times and in relationships. And then that Pluto Scorpio second house kind of dealing with the pain, trauma, and crisis in childhood through the lens of the family, which you already shared. So now taking those two, transmuting it, and then how do you feel you help intuitively and using your intuition about relationships as you work with these women, and then the Lilith, but then the Pluto Scorpio, it's all about transformation, seeing your pain, trauma, and crises, but then learning how to transmute it, and then what, soar like the eagle, right, which is the constellation of Scorpio and Grilla. Do you feel like, are those energies like kind of right at your fingertips because they were so strong on the negative and now you can use them for the positive?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. And I'm really grateful that I'm able to, because I know that, like, first of all, hella difficult, incredibly fucking difficult. And I would never ever wish any of the things that I went through on anyone. I don't care, you know what I'm saying? Never ever. But the fact that I've been able, I'm proud of myself, right? Like the fact that I've been able to like go through these things and not let it break me, not let it be the end of me, or not let it make me bitter and angry either. You know, it's like, okay, like I've been through this, and also I feel that I've been through this because I can make it easier for somebody else. Like what I've gone through, the lessons that I've learned, my story can help someone else make it through it or avoid it completely. You know?
I know that's right? But see, that's so powerful. And that to me, you know, that's that internal like light in your aura that comes out, right? You can see that inner strength, but then that purity and that devotion to like you just said, I don't want other people to have to go through this. You know what I mean? And so, and that comes out in your energy, in your healing work. So share with the audience, and we'll do it again at the end, but share how can people connect, learn from, and even book sessions or coaching with Miss Natalia Rose?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm on Instagram mostly. I haven't been as active lately, but I'm coming back. I'm coming back strong, okay? But intergalactic.honey on Instagram, and also my website, intergalactichoney.com. It's definitely where people can find me.
Intergalactichoney.com. I love it. Okay, cool. So now, well, give us a little insight. 4 weeks. What is someone to expect? You know, let's give you the example. I don't know, a woman, she just went through a divorce. Now she's a single mother. She's maybe, you know, Pluto Libra. She's 43 years old, 44. She went through a divorce. She, you know, is raising her kids. She may want to find love again. Maybe they're young, 8 and 5, but she's kind of been battered and abused and doesn't really have the self-love. When she comes to you, what's the assessment and then the journey that you're ready to take her on?
Yeah. So I always, I mean, I offer a free session to make sure that one, first of all, that we resonate. We're going to work together really well, right? But also just to get a better, like deeper understanding of what it is she's going through and what her goals are. And from there, being able to, you know, really map out like, okay, like this is what we can do to be able to get you to where you want to go, right? But generally, the methodology that I use is a 4-phase process. So we go through 4 months together. So the first phase is definitely the presence and awareness. Presence and awareness for me personally, I believe, is the first step for anything, even if not just in my program. I mean, just like in general, if you don't have presence and awareness to what is going on, you can't change it. You can't change something you're not aware of, you know?
Yeah.
So getting present and aware to your body's needs, getting present and aware to the stories that are being told, right? Like the subconscious stories that you're telling yourself, like how you're talking to yourself.
An
right?
inner dialogue.
Exactly. I was going to say, what is the voice in your head telling you about you, right? So just getting really, really like attuned to that. And also like, what are your habits? Are your habits actually something that is in alignment with where it is that you want to go? Or are those habits something that need to be shifted as well, right? So getting really tuned into that, uncovering all of that, that's the first phase, right? And also like beginning to do a mindfulness practice. One of the best ways to get tuned into what's going on inside of you is to spend time inside of you, right? Really just getting into some meditation and getting observant about your thoughts and learning how to observe them without attaching yourself to them, not making them like the end all be all or making them like what's true about you. We'll have thoughts that are just complete. You can choose them. You can choose your thoughts, right? So that's the first phase. The second phase is really just like nailing down the routines and the habits that are going to support your goals, right? And that can be difficult. And it's also trial and error, right? What works for one person isn't necessarily going to work for another. And also understanding that everybody's starting at a different point. Maybe one client has like practice with doing Vipassana meditation or something like that, but another client has never had that kind of practice and they don't know how to meditate, right? So it's really just figuring out what it is that works for them, and then also figuring out like where in their schedule it works for them too. Especially like, for example, of the example of a single mother, she's got kids she needs to take care of, and so we need to figure out like when can we make time for her that's not going to impede on the things that she needs to do for her kids and how it is that she needs to show up for them, right? So figuring out what works for her. Generally, what I like to do is have my clients create a routine that nourishes their mind, their body, and their soul. And I tell them, I'm like, it doesn't have to be something that is like time consuming. You don't need a 3-hour morning ritual, okay? It can be 15 minutes.
That's not practical, right? Especially for the single mom who's got to take her kids to school and go to work. Like, she's lucky if she has 10 minutes alone in the morning,
right?
To like shower and get dressed. Yeah.
Exactly. So we gotta start with that. So what I like to tell them is like at least something that's like 5 minutes for your mind, 5 minutes for your soul, and 5 minutes for your body. You know what I'm saying? Like, keep it simple. We're not trying to make it overwhelming. And then like once you get that down and you're more comfortable with that, we can expand from there, right? But it's really just like finding what works for them and making it a part of their like daily routines. From there, we start to focus more on the self-love, right? In particular, like doing practices like mirror work, doing practices like writing yourself a love letter, doing practices like really just like defining what is love to you, what are actions that express love to you, what are actions that you take that express love to others, you know what I'm saying? Like figuring out what that is for them. So then once we have that and we have a better understanding of how it is that they are showing up for themselves, and also like defining love and how it is that they receive love and what it is that they're looking for, from there we can create like, okay, like what are the characteristics that you're looking for in a partner that you feel are going to like really support you, support your family, and support the vision that it is that you're building for yourself. Because what we don't want to do is like, be very like generic and broad and like really just like, oh yeah, he's got to have a nice car, a house, you know what I'm saying?
No, you need to get
superficial things.
Yes, you need to get specific with the details, because that's how we manifest. You can't, I always tell people, you don't tell the universe you want anything, because that means you don't have it. And then you're coming from a space of lack. You want to be in the gratitude. And I love how you said about the love letter to yourself, because that's so, tapping into the authenticity. And your Aquarius moon in the 5th house, which is the heart chakra. So, like I feel your push for the, like when you said you were the anarchist and power to the people, but it also could be, the freedom and liberation, but also in the lens of relationships and for helping to guide others for that self-love. So that's really beautiful.
Yeah. So after we do that, then it's just integration. We just focus on integrating all of that, because it's like I said, repetition is, that's how we make it a part of ourselves, not just something that we've done, but make it like a part of who we are, right? So
okay, so when you said about the repetition, I have my my little E-isms, and I teach it to my boys, and I use it, sometimes I use it in my program too, but I always say repetition is the key to ownership. Right? Because when you repeat it, then you become like a master of it. That's very Saturn. right? And then, you know, then once you kind of mentally own it, and I think about this, I used to say with my son when I would read scripts, you know, when you're trying to get lines as an actor, and that's how I would teach him. But the same thing with homework and schoolwork. Repetition is the key to ownership. The more and more you repeat it, then it's just like on your fingertips of your conscious mind, and you just like, boom, boom, you got it. Like, oh, what's 2 + 2? 4. You know what I mean? You just like, boom, 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 you got it, right? And so,
Right.
but that's really beautiful. So, okay, so in terms of like the journaling and the letter, because I really love that. I'm big on writing, right? Mira, escribe, right? So I have my clients write dream books. So do you do like positive affirmation work with these ladies in terms of like having them, because that can be hard if someone's been emotionally abused and battered, right? To make them like say or write or say out loud, like you said, the love letter to yourself, but do you also have them like, you know, emote it out to speak kindly to themselves about themselves?
Yeah, most definitely. And sometimes that might come even sooner. So really just because it varies, each person is a little bit different. So I do have like this general structure, but like how it is that we move through it might fluctuate depending on the person. And journal prompts, honestly, like I give those pretty frequently because like I feel like those are ways to be able to really just like dive a little bit deeper. And what ends up happening is that like there is resistance, or they'll tell me, you know, it's really difficult. I don't know how to do this. And what I share a lot of the time is just like the treasure that you seek is in the cave that you fear to enter, right? It's there. You have to just go through it in order to get to it, you know? And the more that you avoid it, the worse off it's going to be. So it's uncomfortable, but it's only uncomfortable the first time. The next time around, it's not that bad. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I've done this before. I can do this again. It gets easier every single time, right? And I remember I assigned to one of my clients, I had her write a love letter to herself, and I made sure, I was like, okay, I want you to list things that you are proud of yourself for having accomplished, and attributes that you love about yourself. And if it feels uncomfortable or weird to say that you love this about yourself, say you're learning to love this about yourself, right? You got to start somewhere.
That's right. Okay, so I love that. Like, just conceptually, I'm visualizing you in that session, you know, doing that. But that's so powerful and important. And it's like the first time, like the way you said that, that was very Aries Sun, Pioneer Maverick, Aries Mercury. And you're right. Like sometimes we just got to jump in. When we overthink it and we like overanalyze, and this is where the self-doubt, and this is when the excuses come in. And sometimes you just got to like head first, like an Aries, and just get in there, get messy, and figure it out. And so that is like, and then of course having your Aries Sun in the 7th house, it's like, hey, I know how to like kind of help you guys with these relationships. Look at me, right? You know, that's so perfect. So, okay, because I told you, right, you got Gemini in the 9th house and Jupiter's there. So I told you it's time for Miss Natalia to write a book or start a podcast. So, but seriously, like, I think that, you know, you're at this place where you not only have experienced some things, but you know, Pluto's coming to your 5th house, November 19th for 20 years, going to hit that Aquarius moon. And I really think about, you know, anybody with the Aquarius sun, moon, rising in those placements, you know, what these next 20 years could potentially be. And so have you thought about, you know, really as you're doing the coaching, but there is that kind of writing and teaching aspect, have you thought about the next iteration of your program and your business, and doing group classes, or actually writing that book and share? Because I think about with Pluto Scorpio, I've been telling all the Gen Y millennials, Pluto Scorpio, Pluto going to Aquarius, you guys are going to be the leaders of the world for the next 20 years. You're up to bat. Have at it. Make sure you get healed, right? But it's time for y'all to shine. So what does that shining in the next 20 years in a way kind of look like for Miss Natalia Rose?
You know, I have thought about it, and it's mostly like the things that like I've put on my vision board and stuff. Where it's like, it has always, I'm an avid reader. I love to read. I consider myself a nerd. Like, I love to read. And writing has always been a thing for me. I kid you not, I have had diaries or journals since I was in elementary school. And I actually recently found one. It's mad funny to go back and read those. It's like, dang, like 5th grade me was so, like, you know, like I haven't changed.
That's really wild.
Yeah, it's super interesting.
But it's a way for us to mark our growth, right? To really, like you said, to look back and have that. That's an amazing gift.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of them. I lost a lot of them, you know, the different moves, and like I'm sure my dad like threw them out. Like,
I think I lost my dream book. I kept a dream book in New York, and I think when I moved to Arizona, I think I lost that too. And you're right. It's magical.
Yeah, but so I found one recently. I was like, oh my God, like this is so what? And like seeing how much like I haven't changed and how much I have changed. The things that haven't changed is I love sparkly things. There's like all the glitter gel pens and stuff that have not changed. I love those things. You know?
That's really cute. That's funny, but it's cute. Okay. That's very Aquarius mood of you, right? You're like, I want to create in an innovative, futuristic way. I want glitter paint and glitter markers and invisible ink.
Right. The sparklier, the better. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so it's definitely like writing a book has been like, it's been in my sphere. I haven't figured out exactly how or like what about, but there was something that you said that did spark the idea of like, oh, like if I were to write a book about my own experience and then also combine it with how it is that I work through everything and this format that I've created, this 4-phase process of like walking through it, if I were to write a book about it, I think that would be very helpful for people. And so maybe that's what it could be about.
I think you just hit it out of the park. That sounds fascinating. So, okay, so when you mentioned the childhood abuse at home, and even I think about the journaling, who was like 10, 11-year-old Natalia? And could she have ever imagined her present day life and all that you're doing now?
I don't think she could. Because of the trauma, because of the abuse, it was actually really hard for me. I started self-harming when I was about 11, 12 years old. And I really wanted to exit. I wanted to exit the matrix. And I thought about that a lot. But I'm also like, I have 3 younger sisters. And so what I felt like, which is ironically kind of like the same thing that I had said earlier, is like, if I can go through it first and prevent somebody else from going through it, like I'm okay with that. And so 10, 11, 12-year-old me really, though I didn't write about it in my journals, I tried to it was funny, like, because I remember the experiences, right? But like in the journals that I wrote, I would mostly focus on like, okay, what happened at school? Like, what's the gossip with this, with my friends or whatever. and there would be mention every now and then of like, you know, like something that my parents had said or something that my parents did. But it was mostly focusing on that, I think. And I think that kind of shows, you know, even at that point in time, even when I was like really considering leaving the Matrix, and then also just being like, I can't because my siblings are here, and if it's not me, it's going to be them, and I would rather it be me than them. Showed my like optimism as well of like, okay, like I'm going to focus on the good things. This is the stuff that I, you know. So journaling about like, oh, I got this today, and I, you know, I hung out with this person, and we did this thing, you know what I'm saying? Versus like, you know, this is the fucked up shitty thing that happened when I got home, right? So it was definitely, I don't think at that point in time I could see even getting past high school. I couldn't really even see, even when I got to high school, couldn't really even see past 25, you know? So who I am and where I am now, I'm sure would honestly, like, little me would think I'm fucking badass for sure. Like, she'd be like, "Oh, dang!"
Right. But would she curse as well as you do now?
She probably would. She probably would have.
That's funny. Oh my gosh. So, okay, so when you think about the transformation that Pluto and Aquarius can bring in your individual life, what do you think it can do for us as a collective, energetically, spiritually, and even some of the technological advances that can improve our lives and our health? What are your thoughts in terms of perceiving this energy?
Honestly, it's a very exciting energy because I feel like with this energy, there's going to be more people that are stepping up and saying I'm not settling for the bullshit anymore. And also I'm going to take into consideration how it's going to impact and influence others, and in the best possible way, right? Like stepping, like what it really feels like is kind of like a warrior for the people, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's kind of powerful. And do you also, I mean, when I think about that being in your fifth house and the Aquarius moon, and it's like your heart chakra, do you feel that the collective, we're gonna kind of walk into being more of our true authentic selves?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Because that's a part of, it's definitely a part of the work that I'm doing now, right? Because like when you love yourself and you accept yourself, you're more authentic to who you came here to be, right? And I think that is absolutely important, vital for us to be able to live sustainable lives that are to in the how do I want to say this? That are going to benefit not just ourselves, but benefit the collective as a whole, right? Because the collective is made up of individuals. When individuals are being their true self, loving themselves, and really showing up and showing out for themselves, they can show up and show out for other people from a place of groundedness, from a place of like really just like authentic, true essence of their soul, versus showing up because they feel like they have to, or being performative about it, or like I'm doing this because this person's going to think this about me if I don't, you know. Those are masks that a lot of people have been wearing. A lot of people have lived their whole lives wearing those masks, and they're not happy about it, right? And so like these energies like are definitely going to allow people to have the resources and the knowledge, and also just like the desire to want to show up authentically.
I love that. I love that. So when I think about that Uranus and Neptune and Capricorn, And, you know, it's a generational marker. And I have a lot of clients with the Pluto Scorpio and the Uranus, Neptune, and Capricorn. And it's funny because I feel like that combo is kind of pushing that whole time period in that generation, you know, for you guys to really not just be the spiritual leaders, but have these spiritual businesses. I mean, do you feel like when you've had different regular jobs or matrix jobs, did it feel disingenuous to your heart and soul? And were there always kind of like guiding lights and signs pushing you towards this energy work and having a spiritual business?
You know, I think that there was, and I think that so like in my 20s, I definitely like ignored it.
Of course, because we ignore everything, right?
But because it went against everything that, like, you know, like in particular, like my dad was like, no, you need to get this kind of job, you need to have this kind of degree, and so that you can take it anywhere, and you know. And I love my dad, and I know that he only did it out of love and out of like wanting for me to be able to provide for myself in a good way. But it ultimately, like, it was killing me. It was low-key killing my soul. Like, it's just, I was incredibly depressed, incredibly anxious. I would get up and just go through the motions, and like, it didn't feel good. It didn't feel fulfilling. I didn't feel like I was making a difference in the world or in anybody's lives, you know? And that just really, after I worked in the tech industry, like on the administrative side of the tech industry, for like 10 years. Oh, wow. And I had gotten laid off, and when I got laid off, I was like, okay, like I went, my spiraled, got even more depressed. But at the same time, I had an awakening where I was like, I can't do this. I literally cannot do this anymore. And so that's when I decided, okay, like I'm going to study yoga, right? And I remember having a conversation with my dad, because, you know, we would have carne asadas at the house. And so like we're having a carne asada, and I'm telling my dad, I was like, you know, because he's like, oh, Natalia, like, how's the job search, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I'm putting in all these applications. I'm doing X, Y, Z, whatever. And also, like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I want to be a yoga teacher, and I want to focus on doing that. Because I had been in a really gnarly car accident that, like, had messed up my knee. And I dove deeper into yoga after, you know, like, the Western medicine didn't really help me out. And I was able to heal my body. And so, do you
remember how old were you? I'm kind of curious. I'm thinking about your chart. I want to see annual as it lines up.
I think I was 23. I was 23 when that happened. 23. Yeah, the car accident.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hold on. That's. Did you have to go to the hospital? Obviously, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, that's actually the 12th house is the hospital, Virgo. 23 years old. So that's kind of fascinating. But when you said the knee, it makes sense because also what? You got Uranus, sudden events, and then Neptune's associated with the hospital, and then Saturn and Capricorn rules the knees. So that's why I was wondering. I was like, now I would have really lost it if it happened at 27 years old, because that's literally the 4th house. But it even just as good, the fact that you said not, you know, obviously not good. I'm so sorry you went through that.
Right.
Astrology good, because like you, I'm an astrology nerd, and so it does connect with the 12th house, 23 years old. So that's really, wow, that's powerful.
Yeah. I mean, that's when the car accident happened. The revelation about the yoga happened much later. Yeah. But I remember having this conversation with my dad, and I told him, I was like, yeah, no, like I want to be a yoga teacher. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I said to him, oh my God. I said to him, I was like, I can't do this anymore, Dad, because it's killing my soul. He was like flabbergasted, like, how dare you say that to me? Like, because he's a Virgo, and he's like,
oh God, oh, you know, Virgo is like killing your soul. It's not killing your bills.
Right, exactly. That's exactly it. Like that was exactly how that conversation went. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, see, I have only boys, but I could imagine as a Virgo dad having a daughter, I'd be like, your soul, sweetie? No, no. You, you guys to pay rent. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. But that's,
Yeah.
you know, but kudos to you, right? Being intuitive enough, honest enough, and brave enough, because let's be honest, Natalia, probably 95, maybe 85% of everyone working and living life in this world, especially in America, they feel out of alignment and unsatisfied with what they do. But there's that pressure from family, friends, the community, what's expected of us, the gender roles, all these things, to have the 9 to 5, to have the career, the pension, to show up and produce and make the money and, you know, check these boxes, right? Of, you know,
Right.
the house, the car, the, you know, with this, the that, the material items. And you're feeling it. It's a groundswell. It's like that drum background in the background beating, like boom, boom. And it's been growing and growing since 2012 and even more since 2020. And people want to leave the workforce, the matrix, the Monday through Friday, the 9 to 5. It almost feels completely meaningless and useless.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
you were definitely recognizing that way ahead of time. So props and kudos to you. Now, you have some, you know, galactic help with the Aries sun and the Aquarius moon, because with those placements, the tie is like, no, I'm going to do what I want to do anyway. So I know for you, it wasn't as hard as it is for other people. Like people with
You?
like those heavy Earth placements and that
Oh,
obligation.
yeah.
I've I've got to produce in the physical world, and I got to pay rent, and, you know, make money. You know, Aquarius Moon, you're like ready for the revolution.
Right. Burn it to the ground.
Ready for the
Let's
grand.
build anew.
Oh my God! But that's great. So then when, or should I say, has Dad accepted that, and like how did that play out, or when did it play out that it was kind of accepted or seen that this is who Natalia is and this is what she's doing?
I honestly don't think that it was ever really like accepted. It was more so kind of just like, all right, like she's just gonna do what she's gonna do, and ain't nothing I can do about it. Like, not necessarily that it was like, oh, you know, like I am proud of you, or like I accept that you what it is that you're doing. I think it was just kind of like, yeah, okay, there she goes doing her weird thing. Like,
Oh my God. Now see, the pride would come out with like the spiritual talk show on like NBC, you know, like move over Oprah and Ellen, here comes Natalia.
right.
Right? Like that's where then it would be. But I think that, well, so let me ask you this, because I, you know, obviously, you know, mothers, sons, fathers, daughters, and then I don't, as a father, I don't have any daughters, but did you feel a level of pressure or obligation to honor your father's wishes or desires for your own life?
Yeah. And I think that's why I was in corporate America for so long,
Yeah.
because and even the route that I took with my education was to please him. It wasn't to it wasn't to like do my own thing. Because honestly, like, okay, so like I have a bachelor's of science in business administration,
Okay.
right, with a focus in sales and marketing. And I went that route because that's what was practical. It was like the best thing to do, right?
Mhm.
But what I really wanted to do was to study oceanography. I
Of
wanted to
course
go to
you
school
did.
to be a marine biologist.
My God, Capricorn and Neptune and Uranus and Capricorn, Aquarius moon. Of course you did. Wow, that's deep. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah,
Do you
definitely,
do you ever
definitely
say
felt that
what
pressure.
do you ever say what if about that, or do you still sometimes have thoughts of that, or
I really don't. I did at some point in my life, but at this point, I know that everything unfolded in the way that it needed to in order for me to get to where I am now, right? And all
Yeah.
of the experiences that I had I gone to school, like I wanted to go to Humboldt State University because they have like one of the best like oceanography programs in the country. If I had done that, I would have been so far removed from everything else because Humboldt is like kind of like in the middle of freaking no, it ain't much around there. You know what I'm saying? It's
Where
real
is it?
small. Humboldt,
Where is it?
so it's like far. It's like maybe 2 hours away from like the Oregon border in California. So it's like kind of more
Oh,
secluded.
wow.
Definitely, it would have been a totally different vibe. I would have gone a completely different route, I think. And so, though it would be interesting to see, I'm sure in another universe I did do it, but
I was just thinking that.
in this one, nothing's unfolded in that, and it's okay. Like, there's a lot I think I learned that I wouldn't have had I gone to Humboldt instead.
Well, I'm glad you're here. I know the collective is glad you're here. And I think it's really inspiring. And, it's important, for, I think, what you're doing now in terms of working and healing, the energy work and healing with women, because when we go through traumas and we go through abuse, whether it's from family or in committed relationships, it can break you and it can get you bitter or angry or out of the game. Oh, I'll never date again, or oh, I hate men, or this or that. I don't want a family. I don't want. Yeah. And I think for you to really push past it, heal it and integrate it and then transmute it and then to be able to guide others through it, that's what it's all about. And that's the journey and the story. And, I know for me, I went through a lot of childhood traumas and pains. And so I'm not surprised at the work that I do now in terms of helping to transform people's lives through astrology. And it is more than rewarding. You almost feel like you went through that, right? So that you could then become like the expert to lead others out of the darkness. Is that how you kind of envision it for yourself and part of like your life's work?
Most definitely. Most definitely. Because it's like, you're right. Like, that's what it's all about. Like, if you've been through some crazy, like, let me tone it down with the cursing. It was about to come out. I was like, hold on.
And I totally read your mind too. I was like, uh-huh.
If you've been through something that is like, like super intense, but it's also like we're humans, and as much as we like to think that we're like individuals, we're all a part of the collective. And though we are individuated facets of God's energy, and we have the things that make us unique, there are still underlying currents of humanity, like our stories that are experiences that resonate with one another, right? So if you've been through something crazy and you've figured out how to get through it, the best thing that you can do is help someone who's going through it too, like share with them what it is that you did. And this doesn't mean give unsolicited advice. This means ask them, hey, like what you shared with me is something that really resonates with me because I went through something similar. Would you like to hear how I made it through?
You don't want to be on the bus or the train, sit next to somebody and be like, you let him talk to you like that? Oh my God. But see, you're right. That's so, wow. That's beautiful. And, and I thank you, but you're right. It is that collective consciousness. And I think of like, I've been saying this a lot lately, right? Well, you know better, then you got to do better. And I think that, even in parenting, right? I think about like how my parents were with me and my mom was really good. I lost my dad early, but my mom, You know, I think in my whole life, I got like 2 spankings, but I had this deep fear because I didn't like those spankings. So I just was like, okay, I'm not going to do nothing bad. Right.
Yeah.
It was like the greatest scared straight program for me. I was like, oh, I ain't doing that. I'm a smart Virgo. I know better. You ain't hitting me again. So,
Right.
but it's made me adjust and change my own parenting, not to the extreme that a lot of, parents are doing now where they're over being, just so soft with their kids that it's crippling them. Cause I think that's too far, but I think there has to be a happy medium because,
I
discipline
agree.
is love and children are going to push the boundaries and envelopes, but it's your job as the parent to teach, guide, correct, and also to say no. And so
Right.
conceptually, how powerful, I think of all different relationships and dynamics, but how powerful to you is that word? No.
Honestly, incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful. Because I think the other thing too is that, like, we think of so like I've had to shift my relationship with discipline because what I was taught with discipline was actually punishment, right?
Yeah,
Which are totally different things.
totally different.
But discipline requires us to have boundaries. Boundaries are necessary. Boundaries are rooted in self-love. It's important to have boundaries to and in every relationship. That's with parenting, that's with friends, that's with relationships, that's at work. Like that's everywhere. You need to have boundaries. And it's not something that makes you selfish. It doesn't make you a bad person. It's nothing negative. It honestly just shows how much you love and appreciate yourself and also how much you love, respect, and appreciate the people around you as well. Because you're showing them how it is that they can love you in a way that feels good to you, right? And
Yeah.
so I feel like that extends even to parenting. Like saying no is having a boundary. It's important. It's important to say that.
Oh my God, you said it right there, my friend. I love that. So, okay, so in wrapping up, uh, I have like a last final question, and then I want you to share your information again so people can connect with you and book with you. Because, we're going through, let's be honest, these times are crazy. We still got to deal with Pluto and Capricorn. Now it's, moving direct until November 19th before it goes into Aquarius for the next 20 years. But there's just so much chaos in the world, wars and this and that and weather and, all the systems crumbling and dissipating, political, financial, entertainment. And so my question for you is, what is like that lasting message that you would like to leave for the collective of inspiration and hope? Because people are feeling, right, these X-class solar flares. It's like our energy is getting zapped. Gaia, Mother Earth is changing. I tell people it's kind of wonky going from the Piscean age to the age of Aquarius. It's not going to always look pretty. But I tell them, right, faith over fear, and the sun's going to shine tomorrow, and we're going to be all right. But I want to hear from your perspective and point of view, what is that guiding light message that you would like to dispense on the collective?
This is such a powerful question. I'm gonna like marinate for like a second. Because I truly believe that like no matter what it is that you're going through, there is something there for you. God wants you to experience it because there is something for you to gain. It doesn't matter what it looks like or how difficult it is, there is something that is going to benefit you in the long run. So you have to have faith that you're there and you're going through it for a reason. When you have the understanding that it's always for you and never against you, it shifts your perspective and it allows you to move with more grace, right? And appreciation and gratitude of like, okay, I know this fucking sucks and I hate it, but I know I'm here for a reason and I know there's something here for me to learn. There's something, even if I can't see it right now, it'll come to light later, and things are always going to get better. They're always going to get better because everything that you go through, you learn from. If you glean the lessons and you allow yourself to really integrate those lessons and those messages, then it allows you to be able to move with more grace as you move forward, and to also extend that grace to others, right? It allows you to be light in somebody else's life. And so just always knowing that, like, no matter what, everything is always working in your favor. Always, always, always.
That's a perfect way to end it. Yeah, it's in your favor. I love that. And it's so true. And that grace, I always say, have compassion, empathy, grace, and mercy for yourself.
Yeah.
You got to. This world is so tough that you don't need to be on the team of beating yourself up too. We deal with enough adversaries and enemies out there at work or in the world or wherever. You don't need to add up onto it. You gotta be on your side. So I love it, my friend. Wow. So this was so amazing, like always. And I love seeing you glow and shine and just continue to flourish and soar, helping to guide the collective. But it's like, you know, there's that magical stardust that I see from Aries ladies that is just like, it's very authentic. It's very energetic and passionate. And then that Aquarius moon comes in and gives it like, oh, but here's some discipline with it too. You know what I mean? Like, I love it. It's a great balance, a great energy. So please share, Natalia. How can people get in touch with you? Because I know my audience is going to be like, hey, this lady, I know she'll get me and she'll be able to help me.
Yes. So you can definitely connect with me on Instagram, intergalactic.honey. Send me a DM. Let me know that you watched this. Like, let's connect. I would love to hear from you. And then intergalactichoney.com. You can definitely hit that up and book a free session with me. Let's talk. Let's see how we can make some magic together.
I love that so much, you guys. And yeah, and do me a favor. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And, you know, I always say share because you don't know, you texting or emailing this podcast episode, an interview with someone, you don't know what they're going through. And you may think, oh, they're not into astrology and yoga and Reiki and energy healing and what's that about? But you have no idea that sometimes just by sending something to somebody, they may not look at it the first 50 times, but it may just be 51st time where they're like, what is this? And click on it and watch it and literally be seen, be heard, and be healed or transformed, and want to reach out to Natalia or want to reach out to Big E. And it can be the start of a magical spiritual healing journey that could be transformative for the rest of their lives. So please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate that. And go follow Miss Intergalactic Honey on IG, because she's a great follow. And she just told you she about to be back with some like, bow. She about to like, bow, give me that Aries Aquarius. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to see what you do once Pluto is in Aquarius, November 19th. That's going to be fascinating. I'm looking forward to that. I got my eye on all my Aquarius friends and Aquarius risings and moons. I'm like, what you going to do when Pluto comes for you? I know you're going to be great with it. So thank you, my friend, for joining me again. This was more than awesome. And you always have a welcoming invitation to return whenever, and you'll have to definitely come back when when that book or podcast starts popping off. You'll have to come back and share it with me and my audience. All right.
Most definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Because I know it's coming. I know something's coming. I feel it in my bones. I feel it in my bones. So, all right, you guys, thank you so much. This has been the amazing Natalia Rose on Knowledge is Love Astrology Podcast, episode 258. You guys be smart, be careful, be safe, and just vibrate from your heart chakra. Be your authentic self and know that you You are worthy of love, and you're more than enough. All right.
Ashe.
All right. Bye.